Okay, so lesson 6, the imperial system. So we're going to be doing imperial units and conversion. So you guys might have noticed that we don't measure everything in the metric system, like kilograms or meters and those type of things, right? We did change, like in Canada, they did change our signs, right, to kilometers. They weren't always like that. It used to be that our signs were in miles per hour. It would tell you like the highway would be like 100, or sorry, 60 miles per hour. Our cars, the main one would be in miles per hour, and then kilometers would be the other one, right? If you guys notice that when you're looking at a speedometer in the car, how it has both. You've got kilometers per hour and you've got miles per hour.
On my truck, I'm getting it.
Right, so they make it small on our vehicles. It's the other way around, like in the States, right? In the States, the big one is miles per hour, and then the little one would be, if they even have the little one, I think they do, but I think a bunch of cars that might not even have them. Yeah, so we're kind of in the awkward place in Canada because we officially switched from the imperial system to the metric
I
system.
don't say we were like a both. We use both pretty
Yeah, so we switched like in the 1970s. So officially, we are on the metric system. So like most of the European countries, but we're just kind of in this awkward place. Like, why do you guys think we're in an awkward place? Why don't we just switch like France does and like Germany does? So like we're kind of like hanging on to the imperial system. What do you think it is about us in Canada? Why don't we switch?
one because we've been used to it since just forever.
They were too though. They
And most people probably still would want to prefer to use it to the Imperial system, and also the States was right there. And it was just
Yeah. I think the big one is the States, right? Like we do a lot of trade with the States. So let's say like if you're in construction and I want to get some 2x4s, right? Well, 2x4s are measured in inches, 2 inches by 4 inches, right? So that's what the States, if they were the ones like making the lumber, they would measure it 2 by 4 inches. The same with us. Like if we were like, sending down lumber to the States, right? We want to send it down in the units that they're using because they're our buyers. Or we're buying cars from them, or there's just a lot of trade that happens between Canada and the States. So we're kind of stuck in the middle. We're in this like awkward position of being like kind of metric, kind of imperial. So we have to be good at doing both, right? We got to be able to switch back and forth. All right, so common imperial units and their abbreviations. So you guys have seen a bunch of these, right? So for measurement, so linear just means like you're measuring along a line, right? Just measuring straight across. Well, we use inches, we use feet, we use yards, we use miles, right, for those ones. You'll see I've done this too, like when we were doing our measuring tape stuff. Inches can be done with IN or with 2 ticks, right? So that could be like 21 inches. So something like that. Feet would be, if you had like, 5 feet, would just be like 5 and then a little tick beside it. Yards would be YD and miles would be MI. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Mass. So when you see things like ounces or pounds well, this is kind of a confusing one because
there's metric ton.
yeah, there is 2 different types of tons. There's tons,
Isn't Imperial ton around 2,000 pounds or something like that?
and then there's a ton, right? There's a ton, and then there's a ton. There's a ton of different tons. So, yeah, like we were saying, there's going to be a ton in the imperial sense, and then there's a ton in the in the imperial sense, and then there's a ton in the metric sense too, as a metric ton, which is 1,000 kilograms, and then 2,000 pounds would be a imperial ton. The other one's a pint. So pint is a funny one. You guys probably know, like, where have you heard the word pint before? Pint of beer. That's typically what you think of, right? But that's a strange one too, because a pint of beer is actually different if you're in the States than it is if you're in London. Like there's like 2 different types of pints. They're both imperial, but they just actually like call a pint a different thing, right? That actually comes from there not being like a unified system. Where with the metric system, right, that's like it's straight across the board. That's like, it's the same all across the board because they actually had some smart people think it through. With the imperial system, right, there's a lot of crossover where like, a pint got called something different, like it got lost in translation partway through when they came over to the States. There's a quart, there's a gallon, cubic inch, cubic yard. We'll talk more about those in a bit. And then you guys have seen this one too, probably, when we look at the news. If you're watching the American channel, they'll say that it is going to be 80 degrees outside. But what do they mean? It can't possibly be 80 degrees Celsius outside. That would be very hot, wouldn't it? Right? So they're talking Fahrenheit. Right? So they have a different unit of measurement for temperature as well. And then time, well, we typically measure time all the same, actually. We'll measure things in seconds, minutes, and hours. So that's kind of across the board. We just do that anyway. So
I bet none of them. Why?
when you guys get your formula sheets, you've got these. You actually have these different conversion factors because you're going to need them when we change from one unit to the other. We need to know how many inches are in a foot. We need to know how many feet are in a yard, right? So you don't have to memorize those. You're going to have them on your formula sheet, but we're going to know how to have to use those numbers when we get them. So. Question number 1. Can you guys do this with me? Because this is the process that we got to make sure we get down. So how many pounds are there in 1 ton? Or sorry, in 12 tons. Okay, so we got 12 tons. All right. Can anybody tell me, looking at their sheet, can you find it on your sheet? This isn't like a trick question. How many pounds are equal to 1 ton? 2,000, right? That's just finding it there. It'd be the same just finding it on your formula sheet when you have it, right? Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to multiply 12 tons by a factor. So can you guys just put down 2 brackets because that's what we're going to multiply by something. Okay, and actually it's going to be something over something. So can you make your middle line there because we're going to make a ratio. It's not bad like fractions or anything. It's not as bad as you think. So now what we're going to do is we're going to write it. I'm going to write it out as there is 1 ton with 2,000 pounds. Okay, LB. Okay, now I could have written it that way, right? Like 2,000 pounds over 1 ton. Or I could have written it as 1 ton over 2,000 pounds. Any idea why I wrote it this way instead? Like the top way? No? Okay. Why that is because can you see that right now I've got 12 tons. This is like 12 over 1, like officially, right? Because it's just a number, just the number 12. Okay, so what this means here, I've got the units tons up top, right? So T up top. And I've got the unit T in the bottom. So I've really got like T over T. They're going to cancel with each other. So what happens here is I can go, okay, tons cancel with tons. And now, if I just go 12 times 2,000, because 2,000 is up in the numerator, it's up on the top, right? 12 times 2,000, we're going to get, 24,000. 24,000, and then look at the only unit I have left there because I canceled tons. I've got pounds. Does that make sense? That's going to be the process. This one's always going to work, but you guys probably could have thought this one through too without doing all this fancy math. I'm showing you the fancy math because it's going to get harder sometimes, right? But if we think this through, if you had 12 tons, right, and every one of those tons was the same thing as 2,000 pounds, then I just got to go 12 times 2,000, right? This is going to go 12 times 2,000 for every one of those, and that'll get me to the same thing, 24,000 pounds. Good? Okay, we'll practice because we're going to be doing a bunch.
Wait, didn't you just double? Or just
Times it by 2,000. Yeah, so that's the way you can kind of mentally do it, but sometimes they're not that obvious, especially if there was like decimals or something. So, sure. Okay, question 2. So 5 inches is how many feet? See, this one's going to give us a decimal, right? So it's a little bit tougher. So let's do this again. We'll say, okay, 5 inches. So we'll write down 5 IN. Those are our units. And then we are going to multiply by some factor. So throw your brackets down. What's that? You don't like brackets? Okay, so throw your brackets down. It's going to be like a something over something, right? So we'll start with that every time. This is like our template. We're going to just throw our 2 numbers into this, right? So then we got to figure out how many inches are in a foot. So how many inches are in a foot? Yeah. And I always think of Subway if you have trouble remembering how many inches are in a foot. Yeah, so a foot long would be 2 6-inch sandwiches. So 12 inches would be a foot long sub, right? Okay, but anyway, now, am I going to put the inches in the top or am I going to put the inches in the bottom? So if I put it in the top, they're not going to cancel, right? My goal here is I want to cancel the inches. So I'm going to put inches in the bottom and feet in the top. And then we're just going to write in the number of inches in a foot. So there are 12 inches in 1 foot. Make sense? Okay, so now looking at this, inches cancel with inches, right? They're inches in the top cancel with inches in the bottom. But now what's going on here? I've got 5 times 1 over 12. And that really is it. If you go 5 times 1 over 12, that'll get you there. Little hint here, though, like what's going to work out a lot better is, or a lot easier, is if the number's in the bottom, right? 5 times 1 over 12 is actually just the same thing. Like, well, here, I'll show you why. This is like 5 over 1, right? Do you remember when you multiply fractions? You go straight across. So that'd be the same thing as 5 over 12, right? Just 5 times 1, 1 times 12. So that's like 5 divided by 12. So if the number's in the bottom, it's just the same thing as dividing by it. Just go 5 divided by 12. And that'll get you there. So probably have to pull out your calculator for that one. So we get 0.4. 0.4166 repeated. Okay, so that's going to, we'll just round that to 0 point, and then the 1 would round down to a 4. So 0.4. We'll leave it at that. 0.4, and then remember the units. That's what this unit's all about, is the units behind them. So we canceled out inches, so we're left with units of feet, which is perfect because that's what we wanted there, right? We wanted to change the feet. All right, your turn. So using this, tell me 58 gallons to quarts. So you're going to have to use probably your capacity ones. So, okay, so 58 gallons. So, I got to find the relationship between gallons and quarts, right? So let's...
4 quarts is 1 gallon.
Right, so I'm looking here. That's what we needed. 4 quarts is 1 gallon, okay? So, I'm going to make my brackets. And when I made my bracket too, right, like keep the 58 kind of up top like that too, if that makes sense, like up in the, like if it was written beside it, it might look kind of funny, but anyway, it'll be fine. Okay, so I got 58 gallons. And then am I going to put gallons on the top or on the bottom here? Bottom, because I want to cancel it, right? That's the goal. So I'm going to put gallons on the bottom, and then I put quarts on the top. Okay, now I just got to put those numbers in the right spot, right? So 4 quarts and 1 gallon. So 4, 1 on the bottom. Good. Okay, perfect. Gallons cancel, right? I got gallons over gallons. They're gone. So all I got to do here now is go 58 times or divide. Yeah, 50-50 chance.
Times.
It's times because it's on the top. Yeah, because you're going straight across. It's like 58 times 4. So 58 times 4, 32. And then we're left with units of quarts.
I got it right without doing it. I just did 58 times 4 on the calculator.
Yeah, so yeah, and you guys will do that, right? And a lot of times you would just put in your calculator and do that. I do want you guys to like write it down like this though, because like I said, it's going to get tougher when we have 2 units and stuff going on. So like I want this unit analysis method, especially if any of you guys are like, okay, measurement with multiple units. Okay, so how do we handle it if, let's say for example, someone's height may be reported as 5 feet 9 inches instead of 69 inches, right? Because that's how we measure our height, right? I'd say like, you know, I'm 5'10", I'm 5'11", I'm 6'4", right? Like we don't say how many inches we are. So we got to see like, you know, what the, how to change that or how to do that, right? So there's an example here. I think for the what I'm going to do though, let's do this one. Let's convert 2 hours and 24 minutes to just minutes. Okay, so 2 hours. I'm just going to do it on my own beside this. So 2 hours and 24 minutes. And I want to change it to just minutes. Good. Nice. Okay, so you were doing that in your head, right? Good. Okay, so 2 hours, all we'd have to do here is I'd say, okay, well, how many minutes is 2 hours? Yeah, so every minute is, or sorry, every hour is 60 minutes. We got 2 of them, so this is going to be 120 minutes. And then, well, then just plus 24, right? So this is like plus 24 minutes. Whoop, what am I doing? So what did you say that was, Andrew? 144 minutes. Okay. Now, let's change or convert 3 yards, 2 feet, and 7 inches into just all inches, right? Because that's how someone would tell you the distance of something. If it was like a long distance, they might say, you know, something like this: 3 yards, 2 feet, 7 inches, which is kind of awkward, right? Because we got to change all of these things now. So first off, really what I want to do here is I want to change these 2 feet into inches, and I want to change these yards into inches. And then once I have all of those inches, I can just add them all together, right? So let's just, and 7's already good, right? Yeah. So let's change this 2 feet into inches. So anybody know just offhand how many inches would be in 2 feet? Yeah, how many inches are in 1 foot? Think subway. 12. So how many inches would be in 2 feet? 24. So 24. So I can do that in my head, right? That's 24 inches. Done. I'm going to do it the fancy way again. So we'll say, okay, 2 feet. I'm going to multiply that by some factor. I'm going to put feet in the bottom, and I'm going to put inches in the top so that the feet can cancel, right? And there are 12 inches in 1 foot. Okay, all that being said, we end up getting 2 times 12, so 24 inches. The way I like to do this too is I put a box around that because I'm going to add that up in the end. So just to remind myself, that's going to be an important number to add in the end. Okay, and then let's do the yards. So, okay, we got 3 yards. Okay, and I want to change that into inches. Do you guys know how many feet are in a yard? It's 3 feet in a yard, right? So how many feet would that be? 9. It'd be 9 feet. We could do this. So we could do the same thing with feet. We could say, okay, well, that's 9 feet, and then change that to inches. So 9 times 12, right? That might be the way you do it. But the other way we could do it, using our fancy new method, is we could go straight from yards into inches. Okay, so how many inches are in a yard? You can go back to this table up here if you want. 36. That makes sense, right? 3 feet. 3 feet is 36 inches. So there's 36 inches in the yard. Okay, so I'm going to put yards on the bottom so that they cancel, and then inches on the top. And we're going to have 36 inches in 1 yard. Cancel the yards. So what do we get? 108. 108 inches. And then let's not forget to add the 7 inches that were already on the end there, right? So in the end here, we're going to go... Oop, that's a big pen. We're going to go 24 inches. Or I'll do it from biggest to smallest here. 108 inches plus 24 inches plus 7 inches. And what did you say that was? 139 inches. Okay, now these can be a little bit trickier going the other way around. So now we are going to convert 91 inches into feet and inches. Okay? So what we're going to do here is I'm going to say, okay, we got 91 inches. All right. How many feet would go into that? And if you don't know, right, like, which is fine, how many inches are in a foot? There's 12, right? Okay, so I want to see how many times does 12 go into 91. So you can get your calculator if you want, right? We can go, okay, if I punch it in, I'm like, okay, 91 divided by 12, and I get 7.58, right? Okay, so this is actually the answer, kind of. This is saying that there are 7.58 feet in 91 inches, right? If I changed 91 inches into feet, that's what it would be. The problem is that like 7.58, right? Like this 0.58 part, that's like that would be if I'm going up to 10 and then going to the next one, right? This is like metric system kind of stuff where it would just like go over to the next one. The problem is that the imperial system doesn't work that way. It would go up till 12 and then go to the next one, right? So it's like base 12, or I guess not base 12, but it would go up to 12 and then change over to the next one there. So the problem is I know that there are 7 feet in that, but I don't know how many inches there are because I got to figure out how many inches 0.58 feet is, right? I think the most kind of like farmer way to do this and like, you know, intuitive math way to do this is if I go, okay, 7 times 12 now. So 7 times 12. So you get 84, right? So 84. 7 times 12 is 84. How many would you have left to get to 91? 7 extra inches. So that's what it's going to be. You're going to have 7 feet, and then you're going to have an extra 7 inches left over. Does that make sense? The 7 came from this because it went in 7 times. Yeah? And then I went 7 times 12 to figure out how many inches that was, and then figure out how much is left to get to my number. Okay, those ones can be a little bit tricky, right? And yeah, they'll take practice. So, okay, 7 feet, 7 inches. The other way of doing that, let's do it the other way. So the other way of doing that would be our first step there. I'll just do this question again with the other way. So if we started off with 91 inches, 91 inches, right? And then I changed inches into feet by dividing by 12, which would be the same thing as going, making my brackets, and I've got inches on the bottom, feet on the top, 12 inches in 1 foot. So either way, what happens here is we divide by 12, right? So we get that 7.58 feet. Okay, so then that means we've got 7 feet, but I got to figure out how to change this 0.58 part of feet into inches. So let's just do our own little question there. If we go 0.58 feet and then do the same thing where we'll go, okay, I'm going to multiply this by feet on the bottom, inches on the top so that they cancel. And we've got 12 inches in 1 foot. So if I go 0.58 times 12, you actually get 7. You get 7 inches that way as well. So we can just change that 0.58 part of it, of the feet, into inches. Which way do you guys like, the first way or the second way? No. Okay, appreciate the honesty. All right. Okay. Let's convert 1 3/4 miles into yards. What I would recommend doing on this one, let's change this into a decimal. Do we know what 1 3/4 would be written as a decimal?
75.
Yeah, that would be 1.75. That's going to be nicer to deal with. And I can type that in my calculator. So I'm going to say 1.5 miles. Whoop. Writing everything backwards today. Miles into yards. Okay. I'm going to throw down my brackets. Is miles going to go on the bottom or on the top? Bottom, good. miles. Yards on the top. And how many yards are in a mile? Go all the way back up here. So yards in a mile, there are 1,760 yards in 1 mile. So 1,760 yards in 1 mile. All right, so those cancel. And then just straight across, right? Since it's in the top, we're going to multiply. So that's going to be 1.75 times 1,760. Okay, so that's going to be 3,080 yards. All right, last question. Okay, Darwin needs 2 pieces of plastic border edging for a garden that is in the corner of his yard. If one side of the garden is 12 feet and then 7 5/8 inches, and the other is 5 feet and 9 3/4 inches, how much border edging is required? Okay, let's think this through. So here's what we're going to do. Let's change both of these measurements. Well, actually, you know what I'm going to do? Let's sketch it out here. So it says 2 pieces of plastic border edging for a garden that is in the corner of his yard. Okay, so we just need 2. So we're going to have, let's say that this side is going to be 12 feet and then 7 5/8 inches. And then this side would be 5 feet and then 9 3/4 inches. And we just need the 2 because it just tells us that we just need 2 for both of those. We pretty much just need to add these things together, don't we? Okay. So what I think is going to be the easiest way here will be, yeah, let's do it this way. So let's say we're going to have, well, let's just do the feet first. So if I just go 5 plus 12, how many would that be? You guys know this one. 17, right? We're going to have 17 feet if I just look at the feet part of this, right? Okay, so that's good. We can add that together. It's going to be 17 foot something. Now let's deal with the 9 inches and the 7 5/8 inches, right? So really, let's add those together. So we've got 9 3/4 plus 7 5/8, right? We're going to add those 2 together as well. Now, what I already know is going to happen is that since 9 plus 7 here is going to end up giving us more than a foot, right? We're going to have more to add on to the 17 as well, but we'll deal with that in a second. So let's actually change these mixed numbers into an improper fraction because they're kind of easier to add that way. Yeah? Okay. Okay, so how do we do that? So we're going to change these to, well, they're both going to be still over the same bottom like we were doing before, right? So that's going to be 4 on the bottom. And do you remember how it was 4 times 9 plus 3 to get you there? So 4 times 9 plus 3, so 39. So 39 over 4. Plus 8 times 7 plus 5, so 61. We got some fractions to add. What do you always need when you're adding fractions? You always need a common denominator. Good. The way I'm going to change this common denominator, or change this, is I'm just going to multiply the bottom by 2 on just this one, right? Because I can change them both to 8. So this would be the same thing as, I'm running out of room here, so 39 times 2 is 78 over 8 plus 61 over 8. What do we get there? 139 over 8. All right, how many times does 8 go into 139? Because we got to change this back to an improper fraction now. What'd you get? 17 point something? Okay, perfect. So that's all we need, 17 point something. So that's going to be 17. Right, so 17 point something. Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of, there's lots of ways to do this. Okay, 17 point whatever. So 8 times 17 is 136. So we have 3 more. So 17 and 3 over 8, right? 17 and 3/8. Okay, so let's put together what we've got so far. So we've got 17 feet and 17 and 3/8 inches. So that's right, but we want to write this a little bit different. I don't really like the 17 inches part. 12 of those inches would make another foot, right? Are you guys okay with saying this then? If we went, okay, that's 17, we can call that 18 feet, and then 17 minus 12, so 5 and 3/8 inches. Okay.